Hey guys, tonight we delve into one of the most iconic and terrifying pieces of technology ever created in the Star Wars universe. The complete armor of Darth Vader. Every plate, every wire, every mechanical component that transformed a broken Jedi into the most feared enforcer in galactic history. From hidden life support systems to deliberate design flaws that served a darker purpose. This is the story of how a suit of armor became both salvation and prison. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Get into your blanket, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. When you think of Darth Vader, you might imagine the imposing silhouette, the mechanical breathing, and that iconic black mask. But beneath that terrifying exterior lies a story far more complex and tragic than most realize. This wasn't just armor. It wasn't merely protection or intimidation. In the sterile depths of Emperor Palpatine's private medical facility, emergency lights cast eerie shadows across polished walls. The acrid smell of Bacta fluid mingles with the metallic scent of freshly forged durasteel. Medical droids hover around an operating table where a figure lies broken, burned beyond recognition. What remains of Anakin Skywalker clings to life by the thinnest of threads. But here's where the story takes a darker turn, as those mechanical hands begin fitting each piece of what would become Vader's iconic suit. They're not just rebuilding a man, they're constructing something far more sinister. Every component, every system, every seemingly life-saving device serves a purpose that goes beyond mere survival. The Emperor watches from the shadows, his yellow eyes gleaming with satisfaction as his greatest manipulation takes physical form. Because what if I told you that the suit keeping Darth Vader alive was simultaneously designed to ensure his eternal suffering, that every breath, every step, every moment of his existence was carefully calibrated to serve the dark side through constant, inescapable agony? The truth about Vader's armor will change everything you thought you knew about the Dark Lord of the Sith. The galaxy had never witnessed such a transformation. In the deepest levels of Coruscant, beneath the Imperial Palace where even the boldest spies dared not venture, lay a medical facility that defied comprehension. Here, where the Force itself seemed to recoil from the darkness, Emperor Palpatine had assembled the finest minds in cybernetic reconstruction, not to heal, but to reshape destiny itself. The chamber stretched impossibly wide, its walls lined with durasteel panels that hummed with contained energy. Overhead, surgical lights cast their sterile glow across banks of monitoring equipment, each screen displaying the fragile vital signs of a man who should have died on the volcanic slopes of Mustafar. The air carried the sharp tang of Bacta solution mixed with the ozone scent of high-powered medical equipment working beyond their intended limits. Anakin Skywalker, or what remained of him, lay suspended in a web of life support systems that defied the natural order. His body, ravaged by lava and flame, existed in a state between life and death that only the most advanced Imperial science could maintain. Yet, this was no act of mercy. The Emperor's yellow eyes watched from the observation deck above, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed his greatest work in progress. "Begin the integration," came the command, spoken in a voice that carried the weight of absolute authority. The medical droids responded with mechanical precision, their arms extending to lift the first component of what would become the most feared suit of armor in galactic history. But these were not ordinary medical droids. Each had been specially modified, their programming altered to serve purposes beyond healing. Their optical sensors had been upgraded to detect the most minute fluctuations in their patients' pain receptors. Their manipulator arms had been calibrated to ensure maximum discomfort during the installation process. Every movement was designed to push the subject to the very edge of endurance without crossing into death. The chief medical officer, a brilliant but morally vacant scientist named Dr. Cornelius Eversand's predecessor, reviewed his notes one final time. The specifications were precise, demanding, and utterly ruthless. The armor would serve multiple functions: life support, combat enhancement, psychological warfare, and most importantly, a constant source of physical and emotional torment that would feed the dark side of the Force. The Emperor had studied ancient Sith texts for decades, learning from the techniques of lords like Darth Sion, who had used pain as a pathway to immortality. But where Sion had embraced decay, Palpatine would create perfection through perpetual suffering. The suit would keep its occupant alive indefinitely, while ensuring that every moment of that existence was a carefully calibrated agony. As the first components were brought forward, the chamber filled with the subtle sounds of preparation. Hydraulic systems pressurized, servo motors calibrated, neural interfaces synchronized with the damaged nervous system of their intended recipient. Each component had been crafted not just for function, but for a deeper, more sinister purpose that would only become clear in the years to come. The attending physicians, handpicked for their expertise and their willingness to abandon medical ethics, began their work with the reverence of acolytes performing a sacred ritual. They understood that they were not merely rebuilding a broken body. They were creating a living symbol of the Empire's power, a walking reminder that even the mightiest could be broken and reshaped according to the Emperor's will. In the adjoining chambers, teams of engineers made final adjustments to systems that would regulate breathing, circulation, nutrition, and neural function. But hidden within these life-giving mechanisms were subtle modifications that would ensure the suit's occupant could never know peace. The respiratory system would provide adequate oxygen while creating a constant sensation of suffocation. The neural interfaces would maintain mobility while generating persistent phantom pain from limbs that no longer existed. The Force itself seemed to darken around the facility as the transformation began. Sensitive individuals throughout Coruscant reported disturbing dreams that night, visions of mechanical breathing and the sound of heavy footsteps echoing through their subconscious. The dark side was gathering, coalescing around this single moment of rebirth through suffering. Dr. Eversand's predecessor raised his hand, signaling the beginning of the procedure that would consume the next 72 hours. What emerged from this chamber would no longer be Anakin Skywalker, fallen Jedi and tragic hero. Nor would it be merely Darth Vader, Sith apprentice and enforcer. It would be something entirely new, a fusion of man and machine, bound together by pain and sustained by hatred, designed to serve as the Emperor's ultimate weapon while remaining forever trapped within a prison of the Empire's own making. The transformation that began in those sterile chambers would echo through galactic history for decades to come. Every component that would be installed, every system that would be integrated, every modification that would be made served Palpatine's grand design. The armor would become legend, but the truth behind its creation remained hidden in the shadows of the Imperial Palace, known only to those who participated in its dark genesis. As the medical team prepared to begin their work, none of them could have imagined that they were about to create the most complex and diabolical prison ever conceived. One that would hold its occupant captive not through walls or chains, but through his own mechanical heartbeat and the constant reminder of everything he had lost. The age of Darth Vader was about to begin. Of all the components that would define Darth Vader's terrifying presence, none carried more significance than the helmet that would forever hide the face of Anakin Skywalker from the galaxy. This was not merely a piece of protective equipment, but a masterwork of psychological warfare and ancient Sith tradition, forged from materials that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. The helmet's construction began with a foundation of durasteel, the same alloy used in the hulls of star destroyers, but refined to a degree that few metallurgists in the galaxy could achieve. Layer upon layer of this nearly indestructible material was shaped and molded, each curve and angle calculated not just for protection, but for maximum intimidation factor. The distinctive dome shape drew inspiration from ancient Sith war masks discovered in the tombs of Korriban, designs that had struck fear into the hearts of enemies millennia before the rise of the Empire. The helmet's faceplate represented perhaps the most sophisticated piece of optical technology ever created for personal use. Behind those black impenetrable lenses lay a complex array of sensors and displays that could analyze atmospheric composition, detect life signs at incredible distances, and provide targeting data with pinpoint accuracy. The transperistal lenses themselves were forged in the volcanic forges of Mustafar, a deliberate irony that would forever connect Vader to the planet where Anakin Skywalker had burned. But the true genius of the helmet's design lay not in its protective capabilities or technological marvels, but in its psychological impact. The smooth, featureless surface eliminated all traces of humanity, transforming its wearer into something beyond mortal comprehension. Where once Anakin's expressive blue eyes had conveyed emotion and warmth, now there was only the cold reflection of polished metal and the red glow of optical sensors. The interior of the helmet told a different story entirely. The padding and neural interfaces were designed with medical precision, but also with deliberate discomfort. The neural crown, a device that connected directly to the wearer's brain, provided enhanced sensory input and heads-up display functionality. However, it also generated a constant low-level electrical field that would produce persistent headaches, ensuring that the helmet's occupant could never truly rest or find peace. Ancient Sith traditions spoke of masks that bound the wearer to the dark side, artifacts that gradually consumed the identity of those who donned them. The Emperor had studied these legends extensively, incorporating their principles into Vader's helmet design. The mask would not merely hide his apprentice's face, it would gradually erode what remained of his humanity, replacing it with cold mechanical efficiency and unwavering loyalty to the dark side. The helmet's communication systems represented a marvel of Imperial engineering, capable of transmitting across vast distances and interfacing with every major computer system in the Imperial fleet. Voice modulators within the mask transformed natural speech into the deep, mechanically enhanced tones that would become synonymous with fear throughout the galaxy. But even this system served a dual purpose. The modulator was designed to make normal conversation uncomfortable, adding a subtle electronic distortion that made casual interaction nearly impossible. Integration with the respiratory system created the helmet's most iconic feature, the ability to amplify and broadcast the sound of mechanical breathing. This was not an accidental byproduct of the life support systems, but a carefully engineered psychological weapon. The slow, methodical rhythm of Vader's breathing would become a harbinger of doom, a sound that preceded the arrival of Imperial justice and struck terror into the hearts of rebels and Imperial officers alike. The moment of first donning would be seared into galactic history, though no recording of it survived. As the helmet sealed into place for the first time, connecting with the suit's broader systems, something fundamental changed in the Force itself. The last vestiges of Anakin Skywalker's identity were sealed away behind durasteel and transparasteel, locked away from the light forever. The helmet's design incorporated elements that connected it to the suit's broader systems in ways that ensured complete dependence. Remove the helmet, and the occupant would slowly suffocate as the respiratory system failed. The neural interfaces were so deeply integrated that extended separation from the helmet would result in severe neurological damage. It was not merely protective equipment but an essential component of an elaborate life support system that had been designed to create dependence rather than independence. Within the helmet's sophisticated electronics lay systems that monitored not just vital signs and environmental conditions, but also emotional states and psychological profiles. Data from these sensors fed directly into the Emperor's personal computer systems, allowing Palpatine to track his apprentice's mental state in real time. Every moment of anger, fear, pain, or doubt was recorded and analyzed, providing the Emperor with unprecedented insight into the mind of his most powerful servant. The completion of the helmet marked a point of no return in the transformation process. Once sealed, it would rarely be removed, serving as both protection and prison for the man trapped within. The face of Anakin Skywalker effectively ceased to exist, replaced by the impassive visage that would haunt the nightmares of a generation. This crown of darkness would become one of the most recognizable symbols in galactic history. But its true purpose remained hidden beneath layers of technological sophistication and ancient Sith wisdom. The rhythmic sound that would become the galaxy's most feared soundtrack began not with a roar or a scream, but with the precise mechanical cycling of the most sophisticated life support system ever created. Vader's respiratory apparatus represented the convergence of Imperial medical technology and Sith cruelty, designed to sustain life while ensuring that every breath carried the weight of eternal suffering. The primary lung chambers, constructed from specialized plastoid compounds and reinforced with microscopic durasteel fibers, replaced the organic tissue that had been destroyed by the superheated gases of Mustafar. These artificial organs could process atmospheric compositions that would kill most organic beings, filtering toxins and adjusting oxygen concentration with mechanical precision. Yet their design incorporated deliberate inefficiencies that ensured the breathing process would never feel natural or comfortable. Each inhalation required conscious effort, a constant reminder of the dependence on mechanical systems for survival. The artificial diaphragm, controlled by neural interfaces connected directly to the brainstem, operated at a rhythm slightly slower than what the body naturally craved. This created a perpetual sensation of breathlessness, a feeling of suffocation that could never be entirely overcome, no matter how deeply the lungs were filled. The chest control panel, that distinctive rectangular array of lights and switches that became central to Vader's iconic silhouette, housed the primary processors for the entire respiratory system. Behind the flashing indicators and monitoring displays lay computer systems more complex than those found on most starships. Every breath was analyzed, recorded, and optimized by processors that calculated atmospheric density, filter efficiency, and metabolic requirements in real time. But the true sophistication of the system lay not in its life-sustaining capabilities, but in its integration with the suit's broader psychological warfare functions. The respirator was designed to amplify and broadcast each breath, transforming a basic biological function into a weapon of intimidation. The deep, mechanical rhythm announced Vader's presence long before he appeared, creating an atmosphere of dread that preceded him wherever he went. The air filtration systems incorporated technology originally developed for deep space exploration, capable of extracting breathable atmosphere from environments that would be lethal to most life forms. Molecular filters separated oxygen from virtually any gaseous mixture, while redundant backup systems ensured that respiratory failure was nearly impossible. This capability allowed Vader to operate in the vacuum of space for extended periods, giving him tactical advantages that few opponents could match. However, embedded within these life-saving systems were modifications that served the Emperor's darker purposes. The breathing mixture was subtly altered to include trace amounts of stimulants that heightened aggression and reduced empathy. Neural inhibitors prevented the deep, meditative breathing techniques that Jedi used to center themselves and connect with the light side of the Force. Every breath fed not just the body but the darkness within. The vocoder systems integrated with the respiratory apparatus transformed Vader's voice into something beyond human recognition. The deep, resonant tones that emerged from the helmet were carefully engineered to trigger primal fear responses in most species. Psychological studies conducted by Imperial intelligence revealed that the specific frequency and modulation patterns could induce anxiety and submission in listeners, making it an invaluable tool for interrogation and intimidation. The chest panel itself told a story of complete technological dependence. Each blinking light represented a different system: oxygen flow, filter status, backup power, neural interface, integrity. The wearer could monitor his own life support in real time, but this capability came with a psychological cost. The constant awareness of mechanical dependence served as a perpetual reminder of weakness and vulnerability, feeding the anger and self-loathing that fueled connection to the dark side. Emergency protocols built into the respiratory system revealed the cruel efficiency of its design. In the event of primary system failure, backup systems would engage automatically, but they were calibrated to provide only minimal life support. The wearer would remain conscious and functional, but in a state of severe respiratory distress that would last until primary systems could be restored. This ensured that even mechanical failure would serve to increase suffering rather than provide merciful unconsciousness. The integration of the respiratory system with the suit's broader sensory networks created capabilities that bordered on supernatural. The enhanced breathing apparatus could detect pheromones and chemical signatures with extraordinary precision, allowing Vader to sense fear, deception, and emotional states in others. This gave him an almost mystical ability to read people, complementing his force sensitivity with technological enhancement. Maintenance requirements for the respiratory system were deliberately complex and frequent, requiring specialized equipment and expertise that only Imperial technicians possessed. This created another layer of dependence, ensuring that Vader could never stray far from Imperial support networks without risking catastrophic system failure. The Emperor had created not just a life support system, but a technological leash that bound his apprentice to the Empire. The psychological impact of the breathing apparatus extended beyond its wearer to affect everyone who encountered it. The slow mechanical rhythm became associated with imperial power and inevitable justice. Rebel intelligence reports spoke of the demoralizing effect that the sound of Vader's breathing had on their forces, how it could break the will to fight before combat even began. Medical analysis of the system revealed its most disturbing aspect. It could have been designed to be completely comfortable and unobtrusive. The technology existed to create artificial lungs that would function exactly like organic ones, with no awareness of their artificial nature. The choice to make the system deliberately uncomfortable, to require conscious effort for each breath, was a calculated decision to ensure perpetual suffering. As the respiratory system came online for the first time, it marked not just the restoration of biological function, but the beginning of a form of torture that would last for decades. Every breath would be a reminder of dependence, every inhalation a conscious act of submission to the machines that kept him alive. The man who had once run across the desert sands of Tatooine with the effortless grace of youth was now bound to mechanical rhythms that would govern every moment of his existence. The breath of the dark side had begun, and with it, the creation of an enforcer whose very breathing would strike fear across the galaxy. To the untrained eye, the flowing black cape that became Vader's signature appeared to serve no purpose beyond dramatic effect, a theatrical flourish designed to enhance his imposing silhouette. This assumption would prove to be a dangerous underestimation of Imperial engineering ingenuity and Sith tactical thinking. The cape and shoulder assembly represented one of the most sophisticated mobile sensor and defense systems ever integrated into personal armor. The cape itself was woven from armor-weave fabric, a material originally developed for diplomatic protection that could deflect blaster bolts and absorb kinetic energy from projectile weapons. But this was not ordinary armor weave. Imperial materials scientists had enhanced the base fabric with microscopic durasteel threads and integrated sensor filaments that turned the entire cape into a massive detection array capable of monitoring the environment in all directions simultaneously. Hidden within the flowing folds lay a network of sensors so advanced that they bordered on precognitive capabilities. Atmospheric pressure sensors could detect the displacement caused by approaching beings long before they became visible. Chemical analyzers built into the fabric could identify species, emotional states, and even specific individuals by their unique biochemical signatures. The cape could literally smell fear, anger, and deception, providing its wearer with information that seemed almost supernatural to those who witnessed it. The shoulder assembly that anchored this remarkable system was a masterwork of miniaturized technology. What appeared to be simple armor plating actually housed processing units more powerful than those found in most starfighter targeting computers. These processors analyzed data from the cape's sensor network in real time, filtering relevant information and presenting it through the helmet's heads-up display system. But the cape served defensive purposes that went far beyond its sensor capabilities. The armor weave construction could absorb tremendous amounts of energy, allowing Vader to survive explosions and weapon impacts that would destroy conventional armor. The cape's length and weight were carefully calculated to provide additional protection for the suit's more vulnerable rear systems, while maintaining perfect balance and mobility. The psychological impact of the cape represented perhaps its most important function. The way it moved seemed to defy natural physics, flowing and billowing in ways that suggested supernatural forces at work. This effect was achieved through carefully placed repulsors hidden within the shoulder assembly, devices that could manipulate the cape's movement to create maximum dramatic impact. The cape's interior concealed additional surprises that transformed it into a mobile arsenal. Concealed within specially designed pockets were various tools of intimidation and control, interrogation devices, emergency communication equipment, and backup life support components. The cape could even serve as an emergency shelter, its environmental systems capable of creating a small bubble of breathable atmosphere in hostile conditions. The magnetic properties built into the cape's fabric allowed for remarkable versatility in combat situations. Metal objects thrown at Vader could be caught and redirected by subtle manipulations of the cape's electromagnetic field. Blaster bolts could be deflected, not just by lightsaber, but by precise positioning of the cape's magnetically enhanced sections. The shoulder assembly itself incorporated defensive systems that most opponents never suspected. Built-in ray shielding could absorb direct hits from military-grade blasters, while kinetic dampeners reduced the impact of physical attacks to manageable levels. The distinctive angular design was not merely aesthetic. Each angle was calculated to deflect incoming fire away from vital systems. Integration with the suit's broader systems allowed the cape to serve as an extension of Vader's Force abilities. Sensors in the fabric could detect Force-sensitive individuals at remarkable distances, providing early warning of potential Jedi encounters. The cape's movement could be controlled through Force manipulation, creating an extension of Vader's reach that could be used for both offensive and defensive purposes. The construction process for the cape required months of careful work by specialized technicians who were sworn to secrecy about their creation. Each thread was individually placed and calibrated, each sensor carefully tested and integrated. The final product was a work both of advanced technology and dark artistry, a garment that enhanced its wearer's capabilities while serving as a symbol of absolute power. Maintenance of the cape and shoulder assembly required sophisticated equipment and expertise, creating another layer of dependence on Imperial support systems. The sensor networks needed regular calibration, the armor weave fabric required specialized cleaning processes, and the electromagnetic systems demanded constant monitoring to prevent interference with other suit components. The cape's design incorporated elements from ancient Sith traditions, drawing inspiration from the flowing robes worn by Dark Lords throughout history. But where traditional Sith garments served primarily ceremonial purposes, Vader's cape was a weapon in its own right, a technological marvel disguised as a simple piece of cloth. The way the cape moved became part of Vader's signature intimidation factor. Its seemingly supernatural behavior suggested forces beyond normal comprehension, reinforcing the myth of his invincibility. Opponents found themselves distracted by the cape's hypnotic movements, often failing to notice more immediate threats until it was too late. As the cape and shoulder assembly were integrated into the completed suit, they added layers of capability that transformed Vader from a powerful individual into something approaching a mobile command center. Every movement provided intelligence, every step extended his sensory reach, every gesture carried the potential for both protection and attack. The flowing black fabric that had once seemed merely theatrical proved to be one of the most sophisticated pieces of the entire ensemble, a technological marvel that perfectly embodied the merger of ancient Sith wisdom and imperial innovation that defined Darth Vader's transformation. The torso assembly of Vader's suit represented the most complex integration of organic and mechanical systems ever attempted, a fusion so complete that determining where the man ended and the machine began became impossible. This was not merely armor protecting vital organs, but a complete reconstruction of human physiology using technology that pushed the boundaries of what medical science deemed possible. The chest plate itself was forged from layered durasteel and cortosis weave, materials chosen not just for their protective qualities, but for their ability to conduct and channel the dark side of the Force. Ancient Sith alchemists had discovered that certain metals could resonate with Force energy, amplifying a wielder's connection to the darkness within. The Emperor had incorporated this forbidden knowledge into every component of the torso assembly, turning Vader's very armor into a conduit for Sith power. Beneath the imposing exterior lay a maze of artificial organs and life support systems that defied conventional understanding of human biology. The artificial heart, crafted from synthetic materials that could withstand pressures and temperatures far beyond organic limitations, pumped not blood, but a specially designed fluid that carried oxygen, nutrients, and chemical compounds throughout the suit's internal systems. This synthetic circulatory system allowed for performance enhancements that bordered on superhuman, but at the cost of complete dependence on mechanical function. The digestive system had been entirely replaced with nutrient processors that converted specialized compounds directly into energy. This eliminated the need for conventional food consumption, but also removed one of the most basic human experiences. The psychological impact of this change was profound, severing another connection to normal human existence and reinforcing the transformation from man to machine. Hidden within the chest assembly were backup organs that could sustain life even if primary systems failed. Redundant heart mechanisms, emergency oxygen reserves, and backup neural processors ensured that catastrophic damage to one system would not result in immediate death. However, these backup systems were deliberately designed to provide only minimal function, creating a state of extreme discomfort that would motivate rapid repair of primary systems. The integration of pain management systems revealed perhaps the most diabolical aspect of the torso design. Sophisticated neural networks could theoretically eliminate all sensation of discomfort, creating a completely painless existence. Instead, these systems were calibrated to maintain a constant level of background pain, a sensation that fueled connection to the dark side while preventing the peace and meditation that might allow access to the light. Temperature regulation within the suit created an environment that was simultaneously too hot and too cold, with different sections maintained at conflicting temperatures that ensured constant physical discomfort. The chest cavity was kept warm enough to prevent hypothermia, while extremities were allowed to remain cool enough to create persistent aching. This thermal imbalance was not an engineering flaw, but a deliberate feature designed to maintain perpetual physical distress. The torso assembly incorporated gravitational compensation systems that allowed Vader to function normally in varying gravity environments, from the zero gravity of space to the crushing gravitational fields of high-mass planets. These systems could even generate localized gravitational fields, giving him advantages in combat that opponents rarely suspected until it was too late to counter them. Integrated within the chest plate were meditation chambers that could be accessed through specialized docking systems. These chambers provided the only environment where Vader could safely remove his helmet and experience something approaching normal breathing. However, even these moments of relative relief were designed to be temporary, creating a psychological dependency on the brief respites that reinforced his bond to the machinery that sustained him. The artificial spine that supported the entire torso assembly was a marvel of bioengineering, incorporating neural pathways that could transmit signals faster than organic nerve tissue. This enhancement provided reflexes and response times that surpassed normal human limitations, but the artificial neural network also served as a monitoring system that reported Vader's physical and emotional state directly to Imperial intelligence networks. Sensory enhancement systems built into the torso provided capabilities that seemed almost supernatural. Vibration sensors could detect heartbeats and breathing patterns of individuals at considerable distances. Electromagnetic field detectors could sense the approach of droids, vehicles, and electronic devices long before they became visible. These enhancements made Vader nearly impossible to surprise or ambush, but they also created a constant stream of sensory input that prevented mental rest or peace. The torso armor incorporated ancient Sith designs discovered in the tombs of Korriban, patterns and symbols that had been worn by Dark Lords for millennia. These were not merely decorative elements, but functional components that helped focus and channel dark side energy. The angular chestplate design echoed the geometric patterns found in Sith temples, creating a visual connection to the long history of the dark side. Energy distribution systems within the torso manage power flow to all of the suit's various components, from life support to weapon systems to sensory enhancements. The power requirements were enormous, necessitating a miniaturized reactor system that could have powered a small starship. This reactor's operation generated heat and radiation that contributed to the constant physical discomfort that defined Vader's existence. The emotional isolation systems built into the torso represented perhaps the most cruel aspect of its design. Neural dampeners prevented the release of certain chemicals associated with happiness, contentment, and peace, while amplifying the production of stress hormones and compounds associated with anger and aggression. This biochemical manipulation ensured that positive emotions became nearly impossible to experience, while negative emotions were magnified and prolonged. Backup memory systems stored within the chest assembly could record and replay experiences, allowing for detailed analysis of combat encounters and tactical situations. However, these systems also preserved traumatic memories with perfect clarity, preventing the natural healing process that allows psychological wounds to fade over time. Every loss, every failure, every moment of pain remained as vivid as the day it occurred. The integration process for the torso assembly required months of surgical procedures, each one carefully calibrated to maintain the subject's survival while maximizing discomfort. The artificial organs were installed one at a time, with recovery periods designed to allow full appreciation of each new limitation and dependence before the next modification was made. As the torso assembly was completed and integrated with the suit's other systems, it created not just a life support system, but a prison of flesh and metal that would contain what remained of Anakin Skywalker for decades to come. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of existence would be regulated by machines that served not just to sustain life, but to ensure that life remained a constant reminder of loss, dependence, and the price of falling to the dark side. The transformation of Vader's arms and hands from organic limbs to mechanical instruments of terror represented one of the most sophisticated achievements in cybernetic enhancement, yet also one of the most tragic losses of human connection. These were not mere prosthetics designed to restore lost function, but weapons of precision and power that could crush durasteel or perform surgery with equal facility. The arms themselves were constructed from a revolutionary alloy that combined the strength of durasteel with the flexibility of organic muscle tissue. Servo motors and hydraulic systems provided strength that far exceeded human limitations, capable of generating crushing force measured in tons per square inch. Yet the same systems could modulate their power output to perform the most delicate manipulations, from adjusting complex control panels to applying precise pressure during interrogations. The skeletal framework of each arm incorporated shock absorption systems that could withstand tremendous impacts without transmitting dangerous force to the torso assembly. This allowed Vader to deflect physical attacks, punch through armored barriers, and engage in hand-to-hand combat with beings possessing superhuman strength. The arms could function as both defensive shields and offensive weapons, depending on the tactical requirements of each situation. Neural interface systems connected the mechanical arms directly to Vader's nervous system, providing sensation and control that closely approximated organic function. However, these interfaces were deliberately calibrated to provide incomplete sensory feedback, creating a constant awareness of the artificial nature of the limbs. The psychological impact of this incomplete connection served to reinforce feelings of disconnection from humanity and dependence on mechanical systems. The hands represented perhaps the most sophisticated piece of the entire ensemble, combining strength, precision, and sensory capability in a package that appeared deceptively similar to organic appendages. Each finger contained multiple joints and pressure sensors that could detect variations in texture, temperature, and density with extraordinary precision. The fingertips incorporated tools that could extend when needed, cutting lasers, data probes, and even small manipulator arms for detailed work. Force-conductive materials built into the hands allowed for enhanced interaction with the mystical energy field that bound the galaxy together. The mechanical fingers could channel force lightning with greater efficiency than organic tissue, while also providing protection against electrical attacks that might damage normal hands. This enhancement made Vader's force abilities more powerful while simultaneously serving as a constant reminder of his artificial nature. The gloves that covered the mechanical hands were marvels of engineering in their own right, incorporating sensor arrays that could analyze atmospheric composition, detect life signs, and even perform basic medical diagnostics through touch. The distinctive breathing apparatus built into each glove could provide emergency air supply, while magnetic systems allowed for enhanced grip on metallic surfaces and objects. Hidden within each arm were weapon systems that transformed the limbs into mobile arsenals. Concealed blaster units could emerge from the forearms when needed, while the wrists contained dart launchers loaded with various chemical compounds for subduing enemies or conducting interrogations. These weapons were seamlessly integrated into the arm design, invisible until activated and nearly impossible for opponents to detect or counter. The tragic irony of the hands that had once built C-3PO, crafted from salvaged parts with the loving care of a young boy creating a friend, now served only to destroy and intimidate. The same precision and creativity that had once brought joy through creation was now channeled into more efficient methods of intimidation and elimination. The mechanical fingers that had once worked with hope and wonder now knew only the application of fear and pain. Strength regulation systems within the arms could be consciously controlled, allowing Vader to modulate his grip from gentle touches to bone-crushing pressure without conscious thought. This capability made him particularly effective during interrogations, where the threat of increasing pressure could extract information more efficiently than conventional torture methods. The mechanical precision of the grip meant that subjects could be brought to the exact threshold of serious injury without crossing the line into permanent damage. The arms incorporated gravitational manipulation systems that could alter the effective weight and momentum of the limbs during combat. This allowed for devastating strikes that carried far more force than their apparent movement would suggest, while also enabling defensive maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. These systems drew power from the suit's main reactor, creating another layer of dependence on the integrated systems. Diagnostic systems built into each arm constantly monitored performance and reported status to the central computer networks. Every movement, Every application of force, every tactile sensation was recorded and analyzed, providing the Emperor with detailed information about his apprentice's physical capabilities and limitations. This monitoring system ensured that any attempt to exceed design parameters would be immediately detected and reported. The psychological impact of the mechanical arms extended beyond their wielder to affect everyone who encountered them. The unnatural precision of their movements, the inhuman strength they displayed, and the cold efficiency with which they operated all contributed to Vader's terrifying presence. Victims of interrogation reported that the mechanical nature of the hands touching them was often more disturbing than the pain itself. Maintenance requirements for the arms and hands were extensive, requiring specialized lubricants, regular calibration, and periodic replacement of worn components. This maintenance could only be performed by trained Imperial technicians using equipment available only at major Imperial facilities, creating another element of dependence that bound Vader to the Empire's support infrastructure. The integration of organic neural pathways with mechanical systems created phantom sensations that served as constant reminders of what had been lost. Vader could feel the mechanical nature of his limbs with every movement, a persistent awareness that his body was no longer entirely his own. The hands that had once held Padme's with gentle tenderness now could only offer cold metal and the ever-present threat of overwhelming mechanical strength. As the arms and hands were integrated into the completed suit, they transformed not just physical capability, but psychological identity, creating instruments of power that served the Empire, while constantly reminding their wielder of everything human that had been sacrificed in the pursuit of dark-side dominion. The legs that would carry Darth Vader through decades of Imperial service represented one of the most complex contradictions in the entire suit design. Capable of incredible strength and endurance, yet deliberately limited in speed and agility, they embodied the Emperor's masterful manipulation of his apprentice's capabilities. These were not merely replacement limbs, but carefully engineered instruments of control disguised as enhancement. The skeletal framework of each leg was constructed from hollow durasteel tubes filled with shock-absorbing gel, creating a structure that could withstand impacts that would shatter normal bone while maintaining the flexibility needed for natural movement. The artificial joints incorporated bearings crafted from materials developed for starship engines, capable of operating without maintenance for decades while supporting weights far exceeding normal human requirements. Servo motors and hydraulic systems provided the power for movement, generating strength sufficient to kick through armored doors or leap to heights impossible for organic limbs. The legs could function as weapons in their own right, delivering kicks with the force of speeder bike impacts while maintaining perfect balance and control. Yet this tremendous power came with limitations that were not immediately apparent to casual observers. The mobility systems were deliberately engineered with governors that prevented the legs from achieving their full potential speed. While capable of generating enormous force, the control systems limited acceleration and maximum velocity to levels significantly below what the mechanical components could theoretically achieve. This artificial limitation ensured that Vader, despite his mechanical enhancements, would never again know the freedom of rapid movement that had once defined his identity as a Jedi. The tragic irony of these limitations became apparent when compared to Vader's past as Anakin Skywalker. The young Jedi, who had once moved with fluid grace, leaping across impossible distances and running with supernatural speed, was now confined to measured, deliberate steps. The legs that could support incredible weight and deliver devastating attacks were prevented from experiencing the simple joy of running across an open field or dancing with natural rhythm. Gyroscopic stabilization systems built into each leg provided balance and coordination that exceeded normal human capabilities. These systems could compensate for uneven terrain, sudden impacts, and even partial system failures, ensuring that Vader remained upright and mobile under virtually any circumstances. The stabilizers drew power from the suit's main reactor, creating another layer of dependence on the integrated systems. The feet incorporated magnetic systems that could provide adhesion to metallic surfaces, allowing for movement across ship hulls, vertical surfaces, and even inverted positions when tactical situations required it. These magnetic plates could be activated selectively, providing grip when needed while allowing normal movement on standard surfaces. The system also included sensors that could detect structural weaknesses in floors and surfaces, preventing accidental falls through compromised materials. Hidden within each leg were weapon systems that transformed the limbs into mobile arsenals. Concealed blaster units could emerge from the shins when needed, while the knees contained impact weapons that could deliver devastating strikes during close combat. These weapons were seamlessly integrated into the leg design, invisible until activated, and nearly impossible for opponents to detect or counter. The most sophisticated aspect of the leg design was the integration of force enhancement systems that amplified Vader's natural abilities while simultaneously limiting them. The mechanical legs could channel force energy more efficiently than organic limbs, allowing for enhanced jumping ability and supernatural balance. However, the same systems that enhanced force powers also included dampening fields that prevented the free-flowing movement that was essential to advanced Jedi techniques. Diagnostic systems throughout the legs constantly monitored performance and structural integrity, reporting status to the central computer networks. Every step, every movement, every application of force was recorded and analyzed, providing detailed information about Vader's physical capabilities and limitations. This monitoring system ensured that any attempt to exceed design parameters would be immediately detected and reported to Imperial intelligence. The psychological impact of the mechanical legs extended beyond mere physical limitation to affect fundamental aspects of identity and self-perception. The constant awareness of artificial limbs, the knowledge that every step was controlled by mechanical systems, and the inability to experience natural movement all contributed to the erosion of human identity that the Emperor sought to achieve. The legs incorporated environmental systems that could function in virtually any atmospheric condition, from the vacuum of space to the crushing depths of ocean worlds. Life support systems built into the limbs could provide emergency oxygen and thermal regulation, while radiation shielding protected against exposure to harmful energy sources. These capabilities made Vader nearly impossible to trap or contain using environmental hazards. Power distribution systems within the legs managed energy flow to the various mechanical components, from basic movement systems to defensive shields to integrated weapons. The power requirements were substantial, necessitating direct connection to the suit's main reactor and creating another element of dependence on the integrated systems that bound Vader to his mechanical prison. The construction of the legs required months of precise engineering and surgical integration, with each component carefully calibrated to provide maximum capability while maintaining the limitations that served the Emperor's purposes. The artificial neural pathways that connected the mechanical limbs to Vader's nervous system were designed to provide incomplete sensory feedback, creating a constant awareness of the artificial nature of the limbs. Maintenance requirements for the legs were extensive and could only be performed by trained Imperial technicians using specialized equipment. Regular lubrication, calibration, and component replacement were necessary to maintain optimal function, creating another layer of dependence that bound Vader to Imperial support infrastructure. The integration of the legs with the suit's broader systems created capabilities that seemed almost supernatural to those who witnessed them. The ability to stand motionless for hours without fatigue, to maintain perfect balance under any circumstances, and to deliver devastating attacks with mechanical precision all contributed to Vader's terrifying reputation. As the legs were integrated into the completed suit, they created not just enhanced physical capability, but also psychological constraint, serving as constant reminders of dependence on mechanical systems and the loss of natural human movement. The man who had once run across the desert sands of Tatooine with the joy of youth was now confined to the measured, deliberate steps of a mechanical enforcer. each footfall echoing with the weight of everything that had been sacrificed in the pursuit of dark side power. The legs that carried Darth Vader through the galaxy served not just as instruments of locomotion, but as symbols of the Emperor's ultimate control over his most powerful servant, ensuring that even in his enhanced state, Vader remained forever bound to the limitations imposed by his mechanical prison. The belt that encircled Vader's waist represented far more than a simple accessory or tool carrier, serving instead as the central nervous system that connected all of the suit's disparate components into a unified whole. This seemingly modest component housed some of the most advanced technology in the entire ensemble, coordinating functions that ranged from basic life support to sophisticated battlefield management systems. The belt's construction utilized materials and techniques that pushed the boundaries of miniaturization technology. Within its relatively compact frame were packed computer systems more powerful than those found in most Imperial starships, processing units that managed the constant flow of data between the suit's various systems. Every sensor reading, every diagnostic report, every system status update flowed through the belt's central processors, making it the true brain of Vader's mechanical body. The most visible function of the belt was its role as a lightsaber mount, but even this seemingly simple feature incorporated sophisticated security and quick-draw systems. The lightsaber clips were designed with magnetic locks that could only be disengaged through specific neural commands, preventing the weapon from being removed by anyone other than its wielder. The positioning and angle of the clips were calculated to allow for the fastest possible draw time while maintaining perfect balance of the weapon during movement. Hidden compartments throughout the belt contained an arsenal of specialized tools and weapons that transformed Vader into a self-contained military unit. Emergency medical supplies, including Bacta patches and stimulant injectors, could sustain him through injuries that would incapacitate normal beings. Communication devices provided direct links to Imperial command networks, while emergency beacons could summon support from anywhere in the galaxy. The belt incorporated holographic projection systems that could display tactical information, star charts, and communication feeds without requiring external display devices. These projectors could create three-dimensional images with startling clarity, allowing for battlefield briefings and strategic planning in virtually any environment. The holographic capabilities also served psychological warfare purposes, creating intimidating displays that could demoralize enemies and inspire loyalty in Imperial forces. Power management systems built into the belt regulated energy distribution throughout the entire suit, balancing the enormous power requirements of life support, sensory systems, and mechanical enhancement. The belt contained backup power cells that could sustain critical functions for extended periods if the main reactor failed, ensuring that temporary power losses would not result in catastrophic system failure. The utility systems included environmental analyzers that could assess atmospheric composition, radiation levels, and biological hazards in real time. These sensors provided early warning of dangerous conditions while also gathering intelligence about visited locations. The data collected by these systems was automatically transmitted to Imperial intelligence networks, making Vader an unwitting reconnaissance asset wherever he traveled. Integrated within the belt were personal shield generators that could create localized energy barriers for protection against blaster fire and energy weapons. These shields were designed to be invisible to most sensors, giving Vader defensive capabilities that opponents rarely suspected until their attacks proved ineffective. The shield systems drew significant power but could mean the difference between survival and destruction in critical situations. The belt housed sophisticated jamming and counter-surveillance equipment that could disrupt enemy communications and sensor systems while protecting Vader from electronic eavesdropping. These systems could create zones of electronic silence that prevented enemies from coordinating attacks or calling for reinforcements, while simultaneously protecting Imperial communications from interception. Hidden weapon systems throughout the belt provided last-resort defensive capabilities that could be activated when other options were exhausted. Miniaturized blaster units, poison dart launchers, and even small explosive charges were concealed within the belt's structure, available for use in desperate situations. These weapons were designed to be completely undetectable to most scanning systems. The belt incorporated medical monitoring systems that tracked Vader's vital signs and physiological condition in real time. These monitors could detect early signs of system failure, injury, or illness, automatically adjusting suit functions to compensate for detected problems. The medical data was continuously transmitted to Imperial medical facilities, allowing for remote diagnosis and treatment recommendations. Personal effects storage within the belt provided space for items that maintained connection to Vader's past identity. Though few such items remained after his transformation, the compartments served as constant reminders of everything that had been lost. The empty spaces spoke more eloquently than any contents could have about the price of embracing the dark side. The belt's integration with the suit's broader systems created capabilities that seemed almost mystical to those who witnessed them. The ability to coordinate complex tactical operations single-handedly, to maintain awareness of battlefield conditions across vast areas, and to respond to threats with seemingly prescient timing, all stemmed from the sophisticated systems housed within this central component. Emergency protocols built into the belt could initiate automatic sequences designed to preserve life and maintain mission capability under extreme circumstances. If Vader became incapacitated, the belt systems could maintain basic life support, summon medical assistance, and even coordinate limited defensive actions without conscious direction. The psychological impact of the belt extended beyond its practical functions to serve as a symbol of preparedness and control. The knowledge that every conceivable tool and weapon was readily available created confidence that bordered on arrogance, while the constant awareness of the belt's weight served as a reminder of the technological dependencies that defined his existence. Maintenance of the belt required regular attention from specialized technicians who possessed security clearances that exceeded those of most Imperial officers. The sensitive nature of the equipment and the classified technologies it contained meant that even routine servicing required approval from the highest levels of Imperial command. As all of the suit systems converged through the belt's coordination networks, it became clear that this single component was perhaps the most critical element of the entire ensemble. Without the belt's management and coordination functions, the sophisticated armor would become little more than an elaborate prison, its various systems fighting against each other, rather than working in harmony to create the most feared enforcer in galactic history. The moment of ultimate understanding arrived not through a single revelation, but through the gradual accumulation of terrible truths about the suit that had become Vader's second skin. Every component, every system, every seemingly beneficial enhancement served a purpose that went far beyond mere life support or combat effectiveness. The armor was not salvation, but the most elaborate prison ever conceived, designed to ensure that its occupant would remain forever trapped within a web of mechanical dependence and perpetual suffering. The breathing apparatus, that had seemed like a miraculous life-saving device, revealed its true nature through careful analysis of its operational parameters. The respiratory system could have been designed to function exactly like organic lungs, providing comfortable, unconscious breathing that would never remind the wearer of his artificial nature. Instead, every breath required conscious effort. Every inhalation served as a reminder of mechanical dependence, and the constant sensation of suffocation ensured that peace and meditation remained forever beyond reach. The magnificent strength of the mechanical limbs came with limitations that were not accidental engineering compromises, but deliberate design choices. The legs that could support tremendous weight and deliver devastating kicks were prevented from achieving the speed and agility that would have restored Vader's legendary mobility. The arms that could crush durasteel were calibrated to provide incomplete sensory feedback, ensuring that every touch served as a reminder of lost humanity. The life support systems that maintained biological function incorporated subtle modifications that amplified negative emotions while suppressing positive ones. Neural dampeners prevented the release of chemicals associated with happiness and contentment, while stress hormones and aggression enhancers were produced in abundance. The suit didn't just keep Vader alive, it biochemically engineered his emotional state to ensure perpetual anger and suffering. The revelation struck with the force of a collapsing star. Emperor Palpatine possessed the medical knowledge and technological capability to heal Vader completely. The burned tissue could have been regenerated, the damaged organs could have been replaced with perfect synthetic alternatives, and the mechanical systems could have been designed to provide comfort rather than torment. Every aspect of Vader's condition that caused pain or limitation was a deliberate choice made by his master. The Emperor had studied ancient Sith techniques for millennia, learning from Dark Lords like Darth, who had discovered that pain could be a pathway to immortality and power. But where Sion had embraced decay and death, Palpatine had created something far more sophisticated, a living being sustained in perfect health while experiencing constant suffering, a fusion of life and torment that fed the dark side more efficiently than any technique in Sith history. The suit's diagnostic systems served a dual purpose that became clear only when viewed in this new light. While they monitored Vader's physical condition and system performance, they also tracked his emotional and psychological state in real time. Every moment of pain, every flash of anger, every surge of hatred was recorded and analyzed, providing the Emperor with detailed data about the most effective methods for maintaining his apprentice's connection to the dark side. The meditation chambers that had seemed like merciful respites revealed their true function as psychological manipulation tools. The brief periods of relative comfort they provided were carefully calculated to be insufficient for true healing or peace, serving instead to make the return to mechanical dependence even more psychologically devastating. The chambers were not refuges, but instruments of torture disguised as mercy. The combat enhancements that made Vader nearly invincible in battle came with hidden costs that ensured his continued servitude. The strength and speed improvements were accompanied by pain amplification systems that made every movement a conscious act of will. The sensory enhancements that gave him supernatural awareness were paired with neural inhibitors that prevented the deep meditation and force connection that might have allowed him to transcend his mechanical prison. The most damning revelation concerned the suit's modular design and upgrade capabilities. Imperial engineers had created systems that could be easily modified, improved, or completely replaced as technology advanced. Vader could have been given increasingly sophisticated prosthetics, more comfortable life support systems, and eventually complete freedom from mechanical dependence. The Emperor's master plan became clear: create the most powerful enforcer in galactic history, while ensuring that he remained forever bound to his master's will through technological dependence and perpetual agony. Vader's strength came not despite his suffering, but because of it. Every moment of pain fed his connection to the dark side. Every reminder of mechanical dependence reinforced his loyalty to the Empire, and every limitation imposed by the suit ensured that he could never become powerful enough to challenge his master. The psychological manipulation embedded in the suit's design extended beyond mere physical discomfort to reshape fundamental aspects of identity and self-perception. The loss of natural breathing patterns prevented the meditative techniques that Jedi used to center themselves. The suit's construction had required the collaboration of hundreds of scientists, engineers, and medical specialists, each contributing expertise to different aspects of the design. Yet none of them understood the full scope of the project or its true purpose. The realization that every technological marvel, every life-saving system, every combat enhancement served primarily to ensure suffering and dependence transformed understanding of Vader's entire existence. The imposing figure who struck terror into the hearts of rebels and Imperial officers alike was not a triumphant fusion of man and machine, but a prisoner trapped within his own body, sustained by systems designed to prevent escape or healing. The truth about the mechanical breathing that had announced Vader's presence across 1,000 worlds revealed itself as the sound of a man drowning in air, each labored inhalation a testament to the cruelty of his master's design. The whisper that had begun in the sterile chambers of the Imperial Medical Facility had grown into a storm of revelation that swept away every assumption about the nature of Vader's transformation. What had seemed like salvation revealed itself as the most elaborate torture device ever conceived, a prison built not from bars and walls, but from the very technology that kept its occupant alive. The suit that had appeared to be the ultimate expression of Imperial technological achievement was revealed as the ultimate expression of Sith cruelty, a masterwork of manipulation that ensured its wearer would remain forever bound to the darkness, sustained by suffering and empowered by perpetual pain. The man within the machine was not enhanced but imprisoned, not saved but enslaved, not transformed but trapped within a prison of his master's making that would hold him captive until his final breath. The influence of Vader's armor extended far beyond the confines of a single suit, spawning a legacy that would reshape Imperial military doctrine and inspire terror tactics throughout the galaxy. As the years passed, the original design underwent subtle modifications and improvements, each change serving to enhance both functionality and the underlying philosophy of control through technological dependence. The first major revision occurred following the Battle of Yavin, where the destruction of the Death Star had demonstrated vulnerabilities in Imperial strategic thinking. The suit's sensor arrays were enhanced with new detection systems capable of identifying force-sensitive individuals at greater distances, while the respiratory apparatus received upgrades that allowed for extended operation in hostile environments. These improvements reflected hard-learned lessons about the growing rebel threat and the need for enhanced capabilities in unconventional warfare. The Bespin encounters brought significant technological advances to the suit's design. The meditation chamber systems were expanded and refined, allowing for longer periods of helmet removal while maintaining life support functions. The mechanical limbs received upgraded servo motors and neural interfaces that provided improved strength and precision. However, these enhancements came with corresponding increases in pain amplification systems, ensuring that greater capability was balanced by greater suffering. The final confrontation above Endor marked the last evolution of the suit's design, incorporating lessons learned from years of combat experience and technological advancement. The life support systems achieved new levels of efficiency, the armor plating received additional protective layers, and the integrated weapon systems were upgraded with more sophisticated targeting and control mechanisms. Yet the fundamental philosophy remained unchanged. Every improvement in capability was matched by corresponding increases in the mechanisms that ensured continued dependence and suffering. The suit's influence on Imperial design philosophy became apparent throughout the military hierarchy. Stormtrooper armor began incorporating similar control and monitoring systems, allowing commanders to track the physical and emotional states of their troops in real time. Imperial officer uniforms included subtle technological enhancements that provided battlefield awareness while creating psychological dependence on Imperial support systems. The psychological warfare applications of Vader's armor design were studied and replicated throughout the Imperial military structure. The distinctive breathing sound was analyzed and incorporated into Imperial communication systems, while the imposing silhouette influenced the design of everything from probe droids to Star Destroyer architecture. The Empire learned that fear could be engineered through careful attention to visual and auditory design elements. The technological innovations developed for Vader's suit found applications throughout Imperial society. Medical facilities began using similar life support technologies for treating severely injured personnel, though without the deliberate discomfort mechanisms. Industrial applications included enhanced servo motor designs for construction equipment and improved neural interface systems for controlling complex machinery. The suit's modular design philosophy influenced Imperial military equipment development for decades. The concept of integrated systems that could be upgraded and modified while maintaining core functionality became standard practice in Imperial engineering. However, the underlying principle of creating dependence through technological complexity was carefully preserved in military applications. Intelligence analysis of the suit's design revealed disturbing implications for Imperial society as a whole. The same principles that bound Vader to his mechanical prison were being applied on a galactic scale, creating technological dependencies that made rebellion increasingly difficult. Planets that relied on Imperial infrastructure found themselves unable to achieve independence, trapped by their dependence on systems designed to ensure compliance. The suit's impact on Force users throughout the galaxy was profound and lasting. The demonstration that even a powerful Jedi could be bound and controlled through technological means inspired fear among potential dissidents while providing Imperial forces with tactical advantages in confronting Force-sensitive opponents. The suit proved that technological dependence could overcome even supernatural abilities. The armor's connection to ancient Sith traditions became a subject of intense study among Imperial scholars and historians. The integration of millennia-old dark side techniques with cutting-edge technology created a template that influenced the design of other Force-sensitive equipment throughout the Empire. Sith artifacts were reverse-engineered, and their principles incorporated into modern Imperial technology. The economic impact of the suit's development rippled through Imperial industry for years after its creation. The advanced materials and manufacturing techniques required for its construction drove innovation in metallurgy, electronics, and biotechnology. Entire industrial sectors were transformed by the need to support the suit's complex requirements and ongoing maintenance needs. The psychological profiles developed during the suit's creation process became the foundation for Imperial personnel management techniques. The understanding of how technological dependence could be used to control behavior was applied to training programs, equipment design, and organizational structures throughout the Imperial military and civilian bureaucracy. The suit's influence extended beyond the Empire to affect Rebel Alliance strategy and tactics. Knowledge that such sophisticated control mechanisms existed forced the rebellion to reconsider their approach to technology and equipment design. The fear of similar technological enslavement influenced rebel policies regarding captured Imperial equipment and defecting personnel. The medical techniques developed for the suit's life support systems advanced Imperial healthcare capabilities significantly. Trauma treatment protocols, prosthetic development, and neural interface technology all benefited from research conducted during the suit's creation. However, these advances came with the knowledge that healing could be deliberately incomplete when political control was more important than medical success. The armor's legacy continued long after its primary occupant's death, inspiring both fear and fascination among historians and engineers. The technical specifications remained classified at the highest levels of Imperial security, but rumors and partial information circulated throughout the galaxy. The suit became a symbol of Imperial power and technological achievement, while simultaneously serving as a warning about the price of opposing the Empire. The philosophical implications of the suit's design challenged fundamental assumptions about the relationship between technology and humanity. The demonstration that advanced technology could be used as effectively for enslavement as for liberation influenced thinking about artificial intelligence, cybernetic enhancement, and human-machine interfaces throughout the galaxy. As the Empire fell, and the galaxy began to heal from decades of oppression, the legacy of Vader's armor remained as a reminder of the dark purposes to which even the most advanced technology could be turned. The suit stood as testament to the fundamental truth that the most sophisticated prison ever created was not built from durasteel and energy fields, but from the deliberate corruption of the very systems designed to preserve and enhance life. In the quiet moments after understanding the full scope of Vader's technological prison, a different truth emerges from the darkness. Beneath the imposing armor, beyond the mechanical breathing, past the fearsome reputation that struck terror across the galaxy, there remained something that no amount of Imperial engineering could completely destroy: the spark of humanity that had once been Anakin Skywalker. The final moments aboard the second Death Star revealed what 20 years of sophisticated torment could not accomplish. When faced with the choice between loyalty to his master and love for his son, the man beneath the machine made a decision that transcended every carefully designed limitation. The suit that had been created to ensure eternal servitude became, in its final moments, the instrument of the most profound act of rebellion in galactic history. As the armor fell away for the last time, piece by piece removed, not by Imperial technicians, but by gentle hands driven by love and forgiveness, it revealed not the monster that the galaxy had feared, but a broken man who had found redemption through the one connection that all the Emperor's technology could never sever. The mechanical breathing that had announced the presence of evil across 1,000 worlds gave way to the soft, labored breathing of a father saying goodbye to his son. The empty armor that remained told a story more powerful than any of its technological marvels. Each component, every system, all the sophisticated mechanisms of control and dependence stood as monuments to the failure of darkness to completely consume the light. The helmet that had hidden Anakin's face for decades could no longer conceal the truth that compassion had survived beneath the cold metal and flashing lights. The ruins of the technological prison served as a reminder that even the most elaborate systems of control have limitations. The Emperor's masterwork of manipulation had been undone not by superior technology or overwhelming force, but by the simple decision of a father to save his child. The suit that had seemed invincible was revealed to be vulnerable to the one force that its designers had never truly understood: unconditional love. In the silence that followed, as the galaxy began to process the fall of both Emperor and Enforcer, the true legacy of Darth Vader's armor became clear. It stood not as a symbol of imperial power or technological achievement, but as proof that humanity could survive even the most determined attempts to destroy it. The prison that had held Anakin Skywalker for decades had become, in the end, the cocoon from which his redemption emerged. The breathing that had once struck fear across the galaxy was stilled, but its echo would remain in the collective memory of countless worlds, not as the sound of approaching doom, but as a reminder that even in the darkest circumstances, even when trapped within prisons of metal and malice, the possibility of redemption remains. The mechanical rhythm that had announced the presence of evil had transformed into a meditation on the persistence of hope. As systems shut down one by one, and the suit's various components powered down for the final time, they carried with them the knowledge that their ultimate purpose had been fulfilled not through the suffering they had caused, but through the love they had failed to prevent. The most sophisticated prison ever created had become, in its final moments, the chrysalis from which forgiveness emerged. The galaxy that had lived in fear of the Dark Lord of the Sith could now understand that beneath the armor, beneath the technology, beneath all the mechanisms of control and dependence, there had always been a man capable of choosing love over hate, light over darkness, redemption over damnation. The machine had fallen silent, but the man had found his voice at last. Subscribe to continue exploring the technical marvels and hidden truths of a galaxy far, far away, where even the most sophisticated technology cannot ultimately triumph over the power of the human heart.